and we'll start off with the national anthem, sung by our marvelous Joel Longfellow.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons' command. Car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée de plus brillant exploit. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, Joel. Marvelous job.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. My pleasure.
Okay, councillors, we're going to start off with a special council meeting agenda. We have two planning and development reports before us, and Mr. Aquilina will take charge from here on that. Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. I do need, though, before we start, a confirmation of the agenda. Mover, Angie, seconder, John, Councillor Main, sorry, and all in favor? That would be carried. Thank you. Any disclosures of Dan? The microphone is yours.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor, members of council, staff, and those in attendance this evening. The purpose of this meeting is being held pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act. It is to consider a city-initiated zoning bylaw amendment with regards to sea containers. I will talk about what is being proposed when I present the Planning and Development report in a short little while. Firstly, the method of tonight's meeting was given in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act and Section 5 of Ontario Regulation 545/06. Notice was posted in the Import News on April the 28th and as well on our City of Port Colborne website. The explanation to be followed this evening, Deputy Mayor, is I will present the planning report. We will then allow council to ask any questions or clarification to myself. We will then open the floor up to any member of the public that wishes to address council. I will then give an announcement respecting written notice of passage of the zoning bylaw amendment and an explanation of future meetings to be followed. Council will recall, I'm going to present, Planning and Report 2016-71. Council will recall the information report that was at the previous council meeting back in March 29th that talked about sea containers in general, where they are allowed, and more importantly, where they're not allowed. And this all stems from Section 4.13 of the zoning bylaw, prohibited uses, and it states right now they are prohibited, sea containers, located or storing on any land for the purposes whatsoever, any disused railroad car, sea container, or similar shipping container, street car body, truck body, or trailer without wheels, whether or not the same is situated on a foundation in all zones except industrial zones. And that is the key, except industrial zones. This amendment tonight will consider possibly allowing these on properties that are not zoned industrial, however, have site-specific zoning to allow industrial type use, as well as possibly allowing these on the City of Port Colborne's property located on the island along Benelby Avenue and Kalali Street West. It just, again, captures what this application is this evening. What we did here is we provided the properties that I mentioned that are site-specifically zoned to allow industrial use. And you can see there's a multitude of them. And what we did is we actually gave the location of those properties. That's something council may want to consider if they are willing to allow these in those locations. What we also did is we looked around to other municipalities, made contact with them, and asked, what do they do with respect to sea containers? I won't capture all of the comments. They are in the report, but you'll see that some municipalities do allow those in all zones. And some municipalities say no. The majority of municipalities that I found don't permit these in residential zone. That was the commonality that I found. This chart, and I'll confess, this came from a report that the city of Brantford had done. They just recently went through the sea containers, and what they did is they did not allow them in residential zones. They were prohibited, but what they did is they allowed storage containers for temporary purposes only, whether it be for unloading contents of a house, and they only allowed those for 30 days. I saw some other municipalities that did the same on a temporary basis only. This right here will just show you some pictures generally where sea containers are located in the municipality. I'm not going to say that these are permitted uses. These are just ones that I'm aware of in my passing. This one is along Kalali Street West. This one is on property that is zoned industrial. It's located on the south side of Main Street West, and it's Fraser Marine's property. Here is a property that's out in the rural area along Highway 3. It is zoned highway commercial, and I know this one just appeared after council passed the bylaw in 2008 to not allow them. And council is aware that this came back to you because of individuals that are in violation. We allowed them an opportunity to address council and have council make a consideration if these are something that you want to allow in residential zones. The bylaw that is advertised before us this evening would only consider these in properties that are used for industrial purposes but are not zoned, but are site-specifically zoned to allow those. Upon notice of this meeting this evening, only one comment was made. One comment was received from members of the public, and that came from Shirkston Shores Resort. And they have stated, it has come to our attention of tonight's council meeting a discussion regarding sea cans within the city of Port Colborne. I am asking that Shirkston Shores be granted a special exception, site-specific zoning regarding sea cans. We use several in our maintenance areas for temporary or long-term storage. And that is from the general manager of Shirkston Shores. Just want to go over some of the comments that came in from the agencies. City's building division states a standalone shipping container would not require a building permit. However, it would still have to comply with the applicable zoning requirements, including setbacks and lot coverage. If these containers were to be altered, connected, or to be used in conjunction with another building, they would require a building permit and no longer be considered as a shipping container. They must meet all applicable law, and the alterations shall be designed inspected, and improved by a structural engineer. City's bylaw enforcement division states that they have received several inquiries respecting that sea containers be allowed in the following zones: agricultural with industrial repair, highway commercial, and residential. The bylaw enforcement division is in favor of amending the zoning bylaw to allow sea containers on property with specialized zoning to allow industrial uses and to exempt the city of Port Colborne from the zoning requirement. The city's engineering and operations department state that shipping sea containers are becoming more widely accepted across North America for many fundamental purposes, including the basis for open storage buildings and economical stackable storage facilities in commercial and industrial areas. The city currently utilizes a number of these containers on operation sites that are not zoned industrial. Engineering and operations recently stored the street light components for the LED retrofit and the water service pipe and fittings for the frozen services project and shipping containers. It is not economically feasible for the operations department to build roof space for all of the storage requirements for the city. The containers can be located in an area on the operations center property out of view from the general public. The engineering and operations department would respectfully request that the operations center property be exempt from any zoning restrictions for the use of sea storage containers. And finally, the region of Niagara indicates that are not opposed to the zoning bylaw amendment to address potential land use compatibility issues. I'm not going to mention any policies that affect this proposal because it's citywide. There's nothing specific in the industrial designation, the residential designation, commercial designation that's specific to sea containers, aside from the fact that the municipality wants to have respect for good neighborhoods that are sightly and not any negative impacts on any property throughout the municipality. Deputy Mayor, this does conclude my presentation to council, and if any member of council wishes to ask me any questions or clarification, I'd be happy to answer.
Councillor Bodnar?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Dan. Dan, does this also include the new like on-site storage? There's a couple of companies that have some pretty nice looking containers. They don't appear to be shipping containers necessarily, but do you know the ones I mean? That's on-site storage, I believe, is one company. They're painted right up. They're very nice looking. And I've seen a couple of them sitting around beside somebody's garage or something like that. And is that lumped in with these containers also?
Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Bonner, those would be prohibited as it stands now.
Okay.
As I mentioned previously, there are some municipalities that do allow them on a temporary basis
Right.
for that exact purpose, for storage purposes, to take contents out of the house and to bring contents into a house, but they're only there for a temporary purpose only. These containers that are popping up in the municipality, they're only there sometimes temporarily. And when we go and get a complaint and we try to resolve that, by the time it goes through the process, they're gone. Some municipalities have actually put that into their bylaw that actually regulates how long those type of structures or containers, whatever you want to call them, would be allowed.
Sure. Okay. I may have something else, but I'll see if anybody else has any comments.
Councillors, any other questions? Thank you, Dan. I have one. In these shipping containers or that we have with the city, and I think you mentioned in your presentation that we were using them for the pipes and the lights and all that. But as they are empty, do we get rid of one or two or three? Do you know that?
Deputy Mayor, I'll refer that to Director Hansen.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, we have currently ownership of 4 sea containers. The additional containers that you might have seen at the 50 West Side Road site were rentals that we brought in specifically for the LED fixtures. As those are emptied, we would send them back to the company that's renting them. But we do have ownership of 4 at the present time.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to know, because, you know, something what's good for the goose is good for the gander, you know, like, so you have to weigh that out when we're making decisions. But For me, when we're talking about these shipping containers, some you see, and like Councillor Bodden said, they're actually not bad looking, and then some you see in yards, and they are not so great. So it does there should be, if when council considers, or there should be some, I guess, regulation in that as well, how they actually look aesthetically, so. But that's just my comments. Councillor Danch.
Through you to Dan. Dan, I see the list here of these containers and whatnot. I mean, I know of a couple more that are in the city that are on residential properties that aren't making the list. Is that just because they've been missed? I know one's had about 20 birthdays in the one guy's driveway, and the other one's had about 3 years worth of birthdays. Have they just been missed in the city's travels, or?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Danch, it could be a function of those have been there prior to the council making the change in 2008 to prohibit them. They would be grandfathered in, or it could be a function of not getting a complaint. So one of the two. If it's not zoned as industrial, it could be there because it's been there before 2008. That's when council changed the bylaw.
I'm pretty sure I sent a letter or an email off to bylaw in regards to the one, and it didn't make the cut here, so I don't know.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, if you provide me that email address, and it could be something that's in the works that presently is in violation. I know we gave a stay until council would make a determination if they wanted to allow these in residential areas. So there is no list of the actual properties that are in violation. The list that you see is just the properties that are zoned site specifically to allow an industrial type use, but not zoned industrial.
Councillor Bodden.
So Dan, that list you have there, the containers are allowed on those properties?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, correct.
Yeah.
Correct, okay. So I guess I'm a little conflicted
Well,
with this.
excuse me,
Okay.
let me back up.
Yeah.
They're not allowed, because right now the bylaw says if they're zoned industrial, they're allowed to be there.
Right.
You'll see that list, there's no industrial zoning. They're all site specific. The A is agricultural, HC is highway commercial, HD is hamlet development, R2 is second density residential, and RU is rural. So properties that have C containers that are not zoned industrial are in violation.
Right. But so further to that, I know of some of those that have been there before 2008. So if they were, they would be okay?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, that is correct. They'd be grandfathered in because they were there prior to council making the bylaw change in 2008.
Right, right. So I know we're not totally debating this tonight. We're just getting information, but I guess I'm kind of conflicted because these things are really useful. And in the right context and the right property, I think they're okay. I guess it's when somebody pops one in their driveway or on in front of their house, and they use the ugly ones from Costco that's C shipping. It's not Costco store, but you see those ones that are rusted out, and they got rid of them because they were rusted out, and somebody's used it. But for a small business starting up or something like that, they provide some valuable storage and options for them where they may not be able to, put in a full-blown building. I don't know how we're going to resolve this, but I'm not for just total outright banning them. Maybe on residential property, just because it's problematic, but I don't know if you can wordsmith something when it comes back to us that gives people options, but I'd certainly like to see that, and I'd be interested to hear from members of the public that may be here for that tonight. So my comments so far.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Main.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Dan. My biggest concern is how we word this and how we do it. Usually, if you have a property and you put one of these shipping containers on it, you impact properties on either side of you. I know I would not like it if a neighbor put one up and impacted my property in any way, and I think that really has to be looked at, is if council so approves this in other areas, how does it impact the neighbor? Because you know what it's like. We'll have the neighbors here with presentations to get rid of it, and you have to treat your neighbors right, and I think a lot of that would fall under site plan, would it not?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Main, not for a one shipping container on the property. If it's for an industrial type use or commercial that allows these for storage purposes, then it would be subject to site plan control. But the individual resident that places this on their property would not be subject to site plan control. If I may, Deputy Mayor,
Certainly.
Obviously this is for council's consideration, but whatever is decided upon, I need direction.
Sure.
Because right now, the direction I have is just based on conversations from council, not council as a whole, but the comments that I heard at the last information report back in March 29th. So whatever council does decide to do or want to do, I would prefer, or I would need to have direction, so then I can notify the public what council's wishes and goals are for this.
Thank
Because
you.
right now, there is no direction from council as a whole.
Thank you. Councilor's pleasure. Do you want to hear from public comments first before we give some direction to Mr. Aquilina? Because he definitely, I agree, we have to, you know, pony up and make some decisions on this. So if that's the next step, then Mr. Aquilina, then we'll ask for comments from the public before any other direction. Thank you. Back to you.
And Deputy Mayor, the reason for that is so I can give proper public notice.
Yes.
That's what it's for. I need
Yes,
proper
most
public notice
definitely,
before
yeah.
council does make a decision on the zoning change.
Yeah.
Before we open up to the members of the public, I would like to read the following. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Port Colborne before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is approved, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the city to the Ontario Municipal Board. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the city before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is approved, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the OMB unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party.
Thank you.
If I may, Deputy Mayor, does anyone from the public want to address council? And if you do, if you could state your name and address.
Yep, come to the podium, ma'am. Come to the podium.
Hello, everybody. My name is Carol Brady. I live at 111 Oakwood in Port Colborne. I do have illegal shipping containers. The couple of things that I wanted to have you consider is that the shipping containers are, why they're desirable is because they are weatherproof, they are fireproof, and they're secure. I don't care what kind of locks you have on a garage. Anybody can get into a building with a crowbar. And the shipping containers have a specially designed lock on them that's covered, that you can't stick bolt cutters underneath to open it up. And because it is, you know, solid, they're just not smashing open a window and able to get inside. Is this the property you complained about, Oakwood? This is a couple of pictures of my house. It's over an acre, the property's over an acre, and the shipping containers are near the back end of the property. It is zoned residential at the front and institutional at the back of my property is an institutional zoning, that those would be those would be sitting on, and there is baseball fields in behind. I have a lot of people coming up behind my house because it's a public area. I have kids, they come into the yard, I don't know, there's a fence there, but everybody kind of ignores it. There's also a school there. So I have some fairly regular traffic of strangers coming onto my property, which I don't really, you know, and sometimes it's chasing balls, sometimes it's kids just playing, and then they decide to carry that over into my yard, which is okay, but I don't want them taking stuff from the property. And this is very, like I said, it's very secure, and it's very, and it is, you know, it is, as far as offset goes, it's almost 30 feet from the back fence, the city's fence against those ball diamonds. And I also did bring this just so that you could take a, I don't know, quick peek. But these containers would be in this location, and this area is my yard. The next thing I just wanted to mention too was that because these containers are already grandfathered, there is rusted out trucks and shipping containers, some of them very close to me. Some of them are the coverage on the yard is also in violation, but they don't matter. And I find that very unfair that somebody can have a rusted out piece of crap and fill up their whole yard with it. And meanwhile, I have all this space and I can't utilize them as the bylaw currently stands. And my containers are new. I don't believe that they are, you know, grotesquely unsightly containers. We actually bought brand new containers, and they are in perfect condition. They're not dented, they're not rusted. The paint is perfect on them. So, and as far as visibility goes, there's very little visibility driving by because they are towards the back of the yard and they're 150 feet from the road. So, I just, I'm hoping that they expand the uses for them because that is, it's secure storage. And it's not replaced with a building. The building just doesn't, it doesn't perform the same function. It can't. So that's all I just want to ask that you consider some residential uses. If there is, on certain sized properties, if they fall well within the coverage of the lot, then perhaps that could be considered by the council. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation to us. Are there any more people that want to speak to this? Thank you. So Dan, she's giving you some food for thought there with her suggestions, and it's something maybe that council would like to enlarge upon, but.
Sure, Deputy Mayor, and what I will do is, based on the recommendation report on the application tonight, at that time, if council makes a decision on the application, then that's when direction can be given for future changes, for example, because the direction, there is no direction. The meeting is only dealing with these properties that are not zone industrial but are used for industrial purposes.
Councillor Demeray, did you have a comment?
Yes, if I could, through you to Dan. Dan, if we were to allow uses on residential properties, what kinds of controls could we put in place to make sure that sightlines were not obstructed? You know, you put them to the back of the properties, that they were maintained in a good manner. Is there something that we could do to ensure that that would happen?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Demeray, yes, they would be considered accessory structures and be subject to the accessory zoning provisions that talk about location, setback, and lot coverage.
Okay, and thank you, just a little bit more. And if we were to allow them for commercial I mean, I'm thinking of retail uses. I've seen a lot of beachfronts, especially down through the States, where these things are used for, pop-up seasonal retail uses. They're just great. They fit it well. I'm just thinking of various commercial and retail uses. If we were to allow for that, we would have the same types of controls?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councilor Demery, correct, yes, we could, through the zoning provisions.
Councillors, any more questions or comments? Okay. Councillor Butters and then Councillor Bodden.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Appolina. So under that accessory structures, would it also include, keeping it, painted and properly maintained in a way that it's not a rust bucket and ugly?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councilor Butters, it would fall under property standards.
Some separate.
Different bylaw, property standards bylaw.
Thank you.
So Dan, we have a piece of property on Brookfield Road that's zoned. I don't think they're on there.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, it's
Oh,
zone
maybe it is.
A-265.
Yeah, that's it. Is that finish line?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Okay, so they're good to go?
They would be good to go if council approves the change to allow them on properties that are site specifically zoned for industrial use.
Sure.
And along those, as well as those other properties on this list.
Right. Well, I'd certainly like to see that particular property. I'm sorry, I know a number of those, but, in that case, and maybe in some others, those containers could also be used for some noise attenuation that is problematic with that property if they site them in the right spot. There are neighbors that are close there, and what they do sometimes causes some concern to the neighbors. So something like that may be able to, alleviate a concern. So, in situations like that, they could be useful in a number of different ways. I guess I'd like to see, from my point of view, you come back with some options for us if I'm still not clear on this, but if we use them on residential or allow them on residential, then we should know what they're going to fall under. You mentioned, a couple of different departments. We need to know what control the city has on those particular ones, and so that maybe they won't be allowed on a small lot. Maybe it's like a shed. You got to have so much, only cover so much of your lot. Would they fall under, like Frank was saying, like a shed? You can only so many square feet. These aren't small. These are good size. Would they be treated like a shed, or are they in a whole separate category?
Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Bonner, they would be treated the same as an accessory structure would be.
Accessory.
We do have requirements as to how big those can be based on your overall lot coverage for accessory structures, and as well as how that impacts your overall lot coverage when you take in all the principal structure on the property, the house.
Right. So would people then be allowed to come to the Committee of Adjustment for a minor variance if they were close to that coverage? Would
Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Bonner, that is correct. If they exceed the lot coverage, or if they are too close to the property line or too close to the house, then with any other provision of the zoning bylaw, they would have an opportunity to address the Committee of Adjustment for relief.
Okay. So are you looking for direction at this time?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, no, I am not, because the application tonight deals with the zoning for the city's island.
Yep.
And as well as the properties, as you mentioned, as the finish line property and these other listed properties.
Yes.
Council may want to consider those. That's what the recommendation report will bring forward. At that time, as I mentioned to the Deputy Mayor, Council then may want to provide direction as to what you want to do next,
Okay.
if anything.
All right. So before that happens, can we get some information sent to us on what kind of control they would have in different, like, in the residential, so that we're clear with what we can do?
Through Deputy Mayor, I will include that as a supplemental piece of information with the recommendation report for this application, just so council has that background for something they may want to consider
Sure.
in the future.
And I've seen these in agricultural use too, where they'll put them along the bottom of those domes that, you know, say canvas, it's not canvas, but, you know, where they will, you know, store hay or straw and maybe have their animals in also. So if it was in an agricultural zone, what's our options there?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, some other municipalities do permit them in agricultural and rural areas. They base it one per how many hectares you have. So for so many hectares, you're allowed one container.
Okay.
Some municipalities say only one container only. It all depends, but some municipalities address these with agricultural and rural, and they allow them in commercial properties that are zoned to allow commercial use. There's a lot of different municipalities that do it differently, but the commonality that I found is allowing them in a residential area. That is what municipalities are not in favor of.
Sure.
But that's something the council can consider, obviously.
And I guess that would be the easy thing. Just say no residential so you don't have any problems, right? But I think we should take a look at it a little more broadly, but we'll see how it comes up. And I guess you know, if everybody was reasonable and everybody cared about affecting their neighbor beside them, you know, it wouldn't be a problem. But we have to work on the people that wouldn't care and put them in places that, you know, would affect the neighbors. And maybe they're mad at the neighbor and they stick it out beside it and paint it purple with polka dots on it or something. I don't know, you know. So I guess we got to guard against people that might want to abuse this. But I think there's a way to actually make these things useful. They are good if they're in the right spot. So I'll wait to hear the options you present to us.
Mr. Eccleston.
Okay, thank you. Just would like to state the following. If you wish to be notified of the approval of the zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the clerk. Only those persons and public bodies that give the clerk a written request for the notice of the passage of the bylaw will be given such notice. We do have a sign-in sheet at the back of the room. If any member of the public would like to get notice of council's decision, then please sign the sheet and you will be ensured of getting a copy of council's decision on this matter. Deputy Mayor, this does conclude my presentation to you on this application.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn this portion. Councillor Dance and seconded by Councillor Main. Thank you. And now we're moving into our second meeting under the public hearing under the Planning Act. So Mr. Aquilina, once again, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. This meeting is being held pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act. It is considered an application by Gary Davison on behalf of Davison Farms Limited. I will actually inform council when I present the public meeting report as to what Mr. Davison is requesting council to do. Method of tonight's meeting was given in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act and Section 5 of Ontario Regulation 545/06. Properties within 120 meters of the property were given notice of tonight's meeting, and that occurred on April 28th, 2016, as well as proper poster notice was placed on the property. The location of this property is on part of Lot 7, Concession 5, on property municipally known as 9042 Netherby Road. This property is located in the city of Niagara Falls, as well as the city of Port Colborne. You will see where that dashed orange line is. That represents the boundary between Port Colborne and Niagara Falls. What Mr. Davison has done is he has went to the Committee of Adjustment in the city of Niagara Falls and severed off what you see as Part 1 on this sketch for residential purposes, and part of that application requires the remnant lands shown as Part 2 to be rezoned for agricultural purposes only. That is the condition of the Committee of Adjustment. That must be fulfilled, and that's why we're here this evening. The explanation to be followed this evening, the Deputy Mayor, is I will present Planning and Development Report 2016-83. We will then allow the applicant an opportunity to address council if he so wishes. Mr. Davison is in the gallery this evening. Prior to that, if council has any questions of clarification to myself, there would be an opportunity to do so. I'll then give an announcement respecting written notice of passage and an explanation of future meetings to be followed. When the application was circulated, we did not receive any comments from members of the public or the actual agencies, being the Region of Niagara or the Conservation Authority, and that is because they commented on the severance application with the Committee of Adjustment in the City of Niagara Falls. The property is designated as agricultural and is zoned as agricultural. Similar to the City of Niagara Falls, our policies state the same whether you're severing a surplus farm dwelling, that the remnant tract must be rezoned for agricultural purposes only, and that's where you see the blue dot. As I mentioned, no comments from the public nor agencies. And essentially, Deputy Mayor, that is the application before us to change the zoning to agricultural purposes only from agricultural as it presently is. I have nothing more to add, Deputy Mayor. If any member of council would like to ask me any questions.
Any questions, councilors? Seeing none. Aquilina?
I would like to read the following before we open up the floor to any member of the public. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Port Colborne before the proposed zoning amendment is approved, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the City of Port Colborne to the OMB. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Port Colborne before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is approved, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the OMB unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to add a person or public body as a party. Should have it memorized by now. If I may, Deputy Mayor, does any member of the public wish to address council? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That does conclude this meeting under the Planning Act. I would like to add, if anyone wants to get a notice of the council's decision, please sign the sign-in sheet at the back. But if you would like to be notified of the approval of the zoning bylaw amendment, you must make written request to the city clerk. Only those persons and public bodies that give the clerk a written request for notice of the passage of the bylaw will be given such notice. Deputy Mayor, I will have the recommendation report at an upcoming council meeting for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Butters, Councillor Desmarais, all in favor of that. That would be carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. And councillors, we're now going to move into our regular meeting of committee of the whole. So I'm going to call that to order now. Any introduction of addendum items, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. None this evening.
I need a confirmation of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Bodnar, seconded by Councillor Danch. Thank you. All in favor? That would be carried. Thank you. Disclosures of interest. No disclosures of interest. Thank you. Adoption of minutes, the regular meeting of Committee of the Whole, 609-16, held on May the 9th, 2016. Mover, Councillor Dent. Seconder, Councillor Main. All in favor? And that would be carried. Thank you. Determination of items requiring separate discussion. We'll start on my right. Anybody have anything to pull on my right? Nothing? On my left? One? Oh, John. Okay, thank you. Councillor Main, what item?
I think we need to talk about number 3.
Thank you, Councillor Main. Number 3, yes, Councillor Bodnar. 5? And Councillor Main, since this is your ward, I'd like you to pull item 1. If you would do that for me, please.
I will.
Thank you. So 1, 3, and 5 are which we're going to discuss. All in favor of that? Any opposed? That would be carried. Thank you. And approval of the items not requiring separate discussion. Mover, Councillor Main, seconder, Councillor Danch. All in favor? Any opposed? That would be carried. Thank you. Now we're going to just move with Council's approval. We have Betty Conk here, who needs to go to another meeting. So we're going to put her under our delegations. We're going to put her before our presentation. So if I could, if someone, Councillor Butters, and seconded by Councillor Main, and all in favor of doing that, that would be approved. So Betty Conk, come forward, please.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor, Council, staff, and guests. I'm here this evening. Again, I think you all know who I am, but for the record, Betty Conk, 831 Highway 3 East. I'm here wearing my hat as the chair of the BIA again this evening, but I'm also representing the Art Crawl Committee, who were all too shy to come to council to ask for what I'm about to ask you for. As you know, the BIA and represents or has a sponsorship with the Art Crawl, and it has been moved up 1 week for, I'm not sure what the reasoning is, and in the discussion with Mr. Hakeem, it was decided that time was short in order to get the request for road closures in, so it was suggested that I become a delegation this evening. So the Art Crawl Committee would like to have Clarence Street from King to West closed, as well as West Street from Clarence to Charlotte closed for their event, which starts at 5 o'clock on June the 18th. So they would require city staff to put the barriers up by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And short of the new date, which is typically a week later, as far as I know, that's the only change that the Art Crawl has this year. So with your indulgence, I hope you give them permission. And I'll be happy to answer any questions if I can.
Thank you. Councillor Butters.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Betty. For how long? Like, is it June 18th at 5 o'clock till?
To 11.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Just one question, I guess. Of operations, Mr. Hanson, is that going to be a problem for staff to get this done for this Art Crawl?
Deputy Mayor, we've provided this assistance in past years, and I'm sure it's no problem. We can provide the barricades. As the bylaw and everything's in place, we will assist.
Thank you. That's great. Oh. Councillor, a mover, Councillor Main, seconded by Councillor Demeray. All in favor of that? There's your approval.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bada
Okay.
bing, bada boom.
Great. Thank you. Okay, our next item is Michelle Cuthbert, and she's the administrative assistant to the manager of community services, and she's here to talk about Healthy Kids Community Challenge, Phase 1, page 25 in your package, councillors.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor, members of council, senior staff, and members of the public. As mentioned, Michelle Cuthbert here on behalf of Community Services Department to officially launch Healthy Kids Community Challenge campaign that Community Services is spearheading. It is titled Participate Every Day, and en français, Participez à tous les jours. So it's the City of Port Colborne's Participate Challenge is now on. So it's not a shock that today there is a majority of youth that have become obese, about 30% of them. It's largely due to a lot of inactivity, and it's creating health problems for now and in the future. Things like high blood pressure, diabetes, that they will be having now and into their adult life. About 75% of children that are obese will become obese adults. Why is this happening? As previously mentioned, our children are becoming inactive. A lot of it is due to spending hours in front of electronics, approximately 8 hours a day, which is no different than most of us that are working every day. There's overconsumption of high-calorie foods, and a lot of our children are spending time decreasing in physical activity. So what is Port Colborne's Participate Challenge? So the Niagara is one of 45 communities across Ontario that is participating in this challenge. The City of Port Colborne did receive $17,456.79 from the ministry, the Ontario Ministry. It was through an application that the Business Education Council had spearheaded on all the municipalities' behalf in Niagara. And the goal is to promote healthy activity in youth under the age of 12 to try and reduce obesity. Our challenge is happening between June and September, and it's basically to get kids moving and participating primarily in the Three Bridges community of Port Colborne. Our first initiative, and you will see on your desks, members of council, that I have provided, is your activity passport. This passport has been created in both languages, English and French. If you reverse, en français is on the other side and English on the front, to accommodate, especially because there are quite a few French schools in the Three Bridges community. Basically, this is youth ticket to the community. They are going to be earning stamps, free activities throughout. So there's skating, there's swimming at the YMCA activities. There's meant for structured and unstructured play. So there's some questions in there about them coming to our parks and trails and experiencing them. And then they'll be earning stamps. And those stamps, once it's completed and they've met the requirements, will be entered into a draw to win prizes to continue to participate throughout their years to come. So the YMCA has offered some memberships, and the city will be offering program registrations. So as there's the covers both in English and in French. The second part of the initiative is partnering with the East Community Living of Port Colborne and Wainfleet and the Fun in the Sun program that happens at the East Village Community Park. Monica is here representing Community Living because we are partnering on that. And a lot of this program is partnering with our members of the community to do an outreach and to make sure we reach all of the youth and keep them active. So we are rejuvenating the East Village Community Park. We are adding a few recreational activities, putting in a potential ball hockey net, some hopscotch pads to make it inactive play. And we are purchasing a mobile trailer. A lot of the issues that Community Living had expressed for the Fun in the Sun program was there's no shade. How do we transport our items back and forth? So the funds of part of this funding is we're also purchasing tents that will be stored in the mobile trailer. So on the days that it's super hot, they can seek shelter. And we will be also storing all of the equipment so it can be removed so it's not stolen or vandalized. We will be rolling this out in the community starting next week. Primarily, we're hitting up to 3 schools in the Three Bridges community. So we will be in DeWitt Carter, we'll be in St. Therese, as well as St. Joseph. The first date in your passport of activities would be June 4th, which is actually marked as National Health and Fitness Day. And July 4th, we will be launching the Fun in the Sun program and having a rollout. You will all be receiving invitations to attend. It is the first day of the program, and we'll be having some excitement. And then some one-off events. I plan on being in the market. Judith, who's running this through the Business Education Council, will also be here. And there's just a lot of fun activities we'll be rolling out in the coming months. what's next. This is phase 1 of 3. There are 2 more phases coming in the Healthy Kids Community Challenge. So stay tuned for more information as it's going to be rolled out. And you can learn more by following either our portcolborne.ca, our social media feeds, or the healthykidsniagara.ca and their social media feeds as well, which we'll be sharing back and forth with one another. And that concludes my update. If council has any questions.
Councillor Demery.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Through you to Michelle. Michelle, thank you so much for the work you've put into this. I think it's going to be great for the kids. We've spoken about this before, and I think it's wonderful. I would like you, though, to possibly define Three Bridges community, because it's we've heard it before in the East Village area, but it made no sense at that time. And I'm wondering if maybe that's changed some, just so people who are listening may understand what that is.
For sure. Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Demery. The Three Bridges is primarily the community that's on the opposite side of the canal. Is best.
Ward 2.
Pardon?
That would be Ward 2?
That would be, yes, correct. So in planning of this program, I did reach out to both Councillor Demery and Councillor Doucette as well, and to get some input from their involvement in EVAC as well.
Just one question for me. How are the kids going to get this?
Thank you. In response, so we are going to the schools. So the main point is through the schools. So like I said, we are currently scheduled and have our meeting with DeWitt Carter on Friday, June 3rd. I am still waiting on response. I've been told it's not a problem, but you do have to go through the board.
Yeah.
So we are working. I'm doing an assembly with DeWitt Carter. So it's going to be very interactive. We're going to have some games. I have some giveaways, which I left sitting over there, show. There's some footballs and skipping ropes and frisbees and some hats, giveaways to make it fun for them. If I can't get into the other 2 schools, they will be distributed. Grades 1 through grade 6 are the ones that will be participating under 12 years of age, and they will be distributed to all the participants of Fun in the Sun program as well.
Okay, great. Thanks, Michelle. Any other questions? Councillor Butters.
So what's kind of like, do you have like kind of the numbers that you're hoping to attract to this?
Definitely. Through you, Councillor, our Deputy Mayor, Councillor Demery, our letters, sorry. Yeah, so we have printed 1,000 passports. Okay, 600 are being distributed through the schools, their number count, and then the other 400 are partly through the Fun in the Sun, any children that may have been missed in the program.
Great.
Yeah.
It's exciting. Yeah, thank you.
I really like the fact that there's going to be things at no cost.
Yes.
So there's like that barrier is taken down. I think that's just wonderful. Thank you.
If you don't mind me mentioning, Deputy Mayor, that was the main intention, was to remove the barriers, and there is a feedback, there's a survey in there as well. A lot of it is to get an idea of how are these kids getting to activities, and there's a transportation question there. How did you get there? Because it's for us to measure when we're offering other programs as community services in the future. How are we reaching the children and offering the programs, and maybe we'll be able to better target to serve them in the future.
It's wonderful. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Council, we have 2 remaining delegations. Our first one is Cynthia Skinner, and she's here to talk to us. Citizenry Tourism Week. That's page 31 in your package. Welcome, Cynthia.
Deputy Mayor, councillors, staff, and neighbors. I'm speaking here tonight in advance of Ontario Tourism Week, May 29th through the 4th of June. The local venue for this event is at the Ontario Tourism Building on the Queenie at the Skyway at St. Kitts. And that event is the 31st, so stop by late morning for a visit and a treat. What comes to your mind when you hear the term tourism? The trip you are planning, or the annoying traffic jams during our major events? If I asked you to define tourism, I might draw a blank. It is a nebulous term to most, a light and fluffy term to those who do not understand hospitality economics. It's really a complex business, a major drive to North American tourism in this post-industrial era. Cities vie to attract inventory-based businesses. manufacturing. It is hailed as a great victory. Tourism does not often receive the same serious recruiting efforts. Few understand the differences in the two economies. You seek inventory-based businesses, facilities with merchandise ready to ship, shipping containers. This is not tourism hospitality economics. In tourism, the product is consumed as it is prepared. No inventory. A meal prepared, a motel room readied, a tour given. The product is consumed as it is prepared. An economy of unpredictability, dependent upon weather, whims of others far away, but also planning and advertising. Tourism really a two-sided coin. If there's little in your town to interest families in their own spare time, then there's simply nothing to attract outsiders. Our museum, for instance, is not just ours. It is part of a combination of sites to draw outsiders. 2 decades ago, we started to see a mammoth rise in lighthouse tourism worldwide. A decade ago, genealogy tourism took off. We are fortunate to have a fine archives here for the researchers who come. It is not only obvious locations that become tourist destinations, even the most unlikely are. A family visits, a child loses a shoe at the beach, off they go to replace them. A cold front comes through, off they go to buy sweatshirts. Or a camping problem, off to the hardware store. So all of our shops really are potential recipients of tourist dollars, save our utility companies and our insurance agents. And unlikely people leave tourist dollars in our coffers. For instance, that major military exercise along the canal, in off-duty hours, they left a hefty sum behind. In our annual carnival, we think of it primarily as raising funds for a single purpose, not. Families arrive from outside port, tourists, and the carnies themselves. They arrive in their RVs, I live adjacent to that park where they have the carnival. Daily I see the carnies walking past my home, laden down with shopping bags, purchases from our local merchants. Even some of our small town events should be classed as tourism events. Think of our town's famous strawberry socials. People come from out of town, not just locals. They mark their calendars, hoping that no two occur at the same time. A spring rite of passage. Money brought to the town to benefit the town, but just not to a commercial business. Money that helps keep one more local institution viable is indeed important. One area of Ontario boasts the butter tart route. Why can't we boast the strawberry social circuit? It would be helpful in planning all things touristy and community to have a town date checker so that both civic and community groups could call and inquire if a proposed date is available. We need to enhance the opportunity for people to spend their money, not make them choose between competing events. For those working in the tourism industry, locally, they mostly learn on the job, but enough to get them through the shift, but not the underlying factors of what really drives tourism. There are formal courses of study in our area. We need to avail ourselves of the graduates from these courses to enhance our businesses. Niagara College, for instance, has the food prep and chef course. Niagara University has hotel and restaurant management, complementary courses. Many Niagara area students attend these two schools and make prime summer employees, also putting to work that they learned and taking back the experience to use for projects and term papers. What do I know about tourism? You know I'm not employed in the field, just an avid activist, and I am an alum of Niagara University's business-based travel tourism program and had the opportunity to live overseas and visit several continents. In my senior years, I am staying near home, being involved both of the 2 area lighthouse groups, several historical societies, and advocating for recognition of more historic sites and events, translated, pestering civic officials and service clubs to help make such things happen. more for us to be proud of and more for our visitors to enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia, for your presentation. Any questions from the council members? Councilor Bodnar.
Maybe not a question as much as a comment. Certainly, I've had conversations with Cynthia throughout my time on the South Coast Tourism Association, and I appreciate her insights into things. And she's involved in a lot of different things. Some she doesn't mention here. But thank you for being a champion of tourism in general, and for all the things you do locally. And you're absolutely right. We're working with the local lighthouse, Erno Rossi, on something, and I'm hoping it's going to come forward. It's a big deal. Those lighthouses, we're not taking full advantage of them. It's fabulous. So thank you for everything you're involved in, and reminding us how important it is.
I was glad to be here. On the lighthouse issue, one of those southeast countries that's very, very poor had lighthouses on 2 areas. They recognized the amount of dollars, US dollars, that they could get. They invested in totally restoring those 2. I mean, when you have a poor country doing that recognizes worldwide tourism. We've had tourists here seeing 200, 300, 400, 500 lighthouses. We had one gentleman from Germany who came to Point Abano. That was his 1,000th lighthouse. So there's serious visitors out there. Thank you.
Thank you. And any other questions? Thank you very much, Cynthia, for your presentation. It was great. Next up is Jane Davies. She's the manager of the Fort Erie Historical Museum and co-chair, and I don't see Russ Wilson here. So it's just you. That's great, Jane. Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Councillor, and members of the public, and my neighbors too. My name's Jude Scott. I'm the Curator of Collections at the Fort Erie Museum. Our manager, Jane Davies, is unable to attend tonight, and she sends her sincere regrets. And Russ Wilson is at the Fort Erie Council tonight, so dueling council meetings. I'm here to speak to you about the upcoming 150th anniversary of the Battle of Ridgeway and an interesting Port Colborne-Ridgeway connection with that battle. I believe, Council, you have received our anniversary, program in your packet. As you know, in 1866, Fort Erie and this area was invaded by the Fenian Army. The Canadian militia was deployed to our area to defend citizens against the attack. Soldiers from the Queen's Own Rifles and the Royal Hamilton Light Infantry came by train to Port Colborne and on June 1st and spent the evening here. The next morning, they took the train from Port Colborne to Ridgeway, where they encountered the Fenian Army at the Battle of Ridgeway. The battle proved to be a catalyst for Confederation, and Canada became a country 1 year later. It's been often called the battle that made Canada. Other volunteer militia were gathered in Port Colborne, were the Dunnville Naval Brigade and the Welland Canal Field Battery. They proceeded from here, from Port Colborne, via boat to Fort Erie and fought the Fenians at the battle at the Fort Erie dock, little less known than the Battle of Ridgeway. One of the soldiers from the Welland Canal Field Battery was Gunner Fergus Schofield. That name's probably familiar. He was a merchant in Port Colborne at the time. During the battle at the dock, he was shot in the leg, which later had to be amputated below the knee on the next day. The Fort Erie Museum has a collection of 23 original period watercolors of that battle. And this one, I'm sorry you can't all see it, shows the soldier being shot in the leg at the battle, the Fort Erie dock. In appreciation for his service, Fergus was given commission of lighthouse keeper in Port Maitland. And I'm happy to report he lived to be 80 years old. And this is a picture of him in later life. He was a gunner. Following the battle at the Fort Erie Dock, Welland County commissioned a series of medals for these soldiers from the Welland Canal Field Battery in the Dunnville Naval Brigade, and only 77 of them were struck and awarded to these soldiers. Each soldier's name was engraved on the medal. Reproduction copies are available, but the original with the soldier's name on it are very rare. Fergus Schofield's Welland County Medal and his Canada General Service Medal recently surfaced in Buffalo. These medals are now part of the Fort Erie Museum collection, and they represent the sacrifice that the soldiers made in defending our country. If I may approach the bench, I brought the medals with me. They will be on display at the 150th anniversary event and later at the museum. And you can see his name in script in the middle there. Thank you. Yes, one of 77. So to celebrate this event, the anniversary, the 150th anniversary, descendants of the regiments that fought in the original battle, the Queen's Own Rifles and the Royal Hamilton Light Infantry, are coming to this area. They are going to be marching up Ridge Road on Saturday, June 4th at noon in a military parade. They're marching all the way to the Ridgeway Battlefield Park. This brochure got put in all of the Port Colborne residents' mailboxes. It gives you more information about this event, and you are all welcome. It is a free event. You can get more information as well on the museum website. We're closing Highway 3, and there is free parking available at the Crystal Ridge Arena, and a shuttle bus will take you up to the Ridgeway Battlefield Park. So it's a three-part event: a parade at noon up Ridge Road, a ceremony at 1 o'clock at Ridgeway Battlefield Park, and then a festival from 3 to 6:30 at the Crystal Ridge Arena. And it's all free and everyone is welcome. If you have any questions, I mentioned the websites, you have the brochures, and I'm here tonight if you have any questions.
Councillors, any questions? Councillor Butters.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to the presenter, thank you so much for this. I have a question about the soldiers that are listed who, in memory. And I just wondered, for these different individuals who are listed, is there further information on them specific individuals?
Yes. Councillor Butler, Butler?
Butters.
Butters, excuse me.
That's okay.
Not Butler, not that war. She's referring to a plaque, a bronze plaque that's going to be unveiled in memory of soldiers who died at the battle. And yes, there is additional information on each and every one of those soldiers available at the museum. Some of it is also available at the Queen's Own Rifles website, the history of them. And there's a new book out called Ridgeway by Peter Vronsky. He has a lovely tribute to those soldiers in that book as well. So we do know quite a bit about them, and that's why we're honoring them 150 years later.
Any other questions? Oh, Jude, thank you very much for your
Thank you for your
presentation to us, and thanks for your invitation. Gives us a lot to
hope you can come.
Yeah, I was just asking, my sister lives in Ridgeway. I was just asking her about that the other day. So
yes.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have to inspect our air cadets that morning, but after that, I think I'm free to go.
My gosh, you're fast.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is my report, which is going to be very brief. And it's mainly a follow-up from what we talked about, and that's at our May 9th meeting. And that was, I reported then about the correspondence we had received from Cindy Forrester's office and also Chief Jeff McGuire concerning ATVs in Port Colborne. specifically from complaints we received from residents in the north end of Clarence Street. Chief McGuire had copied us his response to MPP Forster, and he indicated that the police would be addressing the issue. So on Friday, May 13th, I met with Staff Sergeant Healy and our CAO, Scott Louie, to discuss this matter further. Staff Sergeant Healy advised us that the NRP will continue their patrols as scheduling permitted, and also issuing a press release reminding residents about trespassing on private property for the purpose of riding their ATVs and dirt bikes. Now, I know I have this here, just give me 1 second to pull it up. He also, hold for 1 second here. He also informed us that he could put on an extra patrol for targeting that area that is of concern to the city, but he said that was going to cost. So it's nothing comes for free, and there was a cost attached to that. And I thought, since MPP Forster's office had expressed her concern about the issue, I sent her a letter and asked her how much she could help with that. But I had the amount here. It's a ridiculous amount, and it's something certainly that council would have to think about. I just got it the other day from him. Something in the neighborhood of, let's see, yes. It's $436 per hour per officer. And so if we wanted them, we'll just kind of figure it out. If we wanted 2 officers, that's like almost $900 an hour. And the minimum amount of time you can call them out is 4. So that's for a Saturday, it would, the cost would be like $3,600 just to patrol that certain area. Well, unless the province is going to give us some money, unless council has some other ideas, something we can talk about at a later date. Any questions regarding that? Councillor Desmarais and then Councillor Butters. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I find this completely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And I think that we should be sitting down with the police chief and asking him to come up with some other idea. But no matter how you look at it, $436 an hour per officer, and yet it's still the Niagara Regional
Sorry,
Police.
Andrew, it's $500 or $436 per officer, not per hour.
Not per hour? Okay,
Yeah,
per officer,
that's
okay.
my mistake.
So, but in any case, those officers can watch and they can ask people to pull over, but if the people choose not to pull over, they have a no chase policy.
That's
So they're basically, and everyone's aware of this no chase policy, so basically that's money that's being thrown away. They're not going to do anything good with that. I would ask that the police come to us and account for their policies.
Thank you. Councillor Butters.
Isn't this part of what policing is like, is there some new definition of policing now that precludes that you have to pay extra for them to come and do the job? Or, like, has the job changed in some huge way that that's no longer part of a policing work? I'm just really thunderstruck. I'll use that word because any other word probably would get bleeped. So, does anybody have an answer to that? Is it outside of the realm of the usual police kind of work? Like, are we going to have to start paying them to come and investigate robberies and
Well, Councillor, just to answer your question, it is outside their normal realm. They do have 2, I think, sorry, Scott, I believe they told us, they have 2 ATVs at their disposal here in Port Colborne. that they use, but if we wanted extra patrol, because we're hearing from the residents there that they are not getting satisfaction, and probably not, as Councillor Desmarais said, because they can't chase. But certainly I can ask, Scott was with me at the meeting, so maybe he can enlighten you more, but it sounded like if we wanted extra patrol, we'd have to pay for it. Okay. If that's not your, yes, okay.
So was the question asked, what patrolling are we getting now? If we have an ATV that's assigned to Port Colborne, then has anybody seen the schedule that shows the patrolling that we are currently getting? Have you seen that?
Sure, through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Butters. They have not told us the future schedule for the summer and fall. They did tell us there were 2 full days of patrols in April in Port Colborne, and there were charges laid, but they didn't tell us what the amount was. They tried to vary the shifts that they go out. Those were regular shifts, not the kind that Port Colborne would pay for. They tried to vary the dates and times that they go out, what day of the week, for example, so that there's no routine that people can, I guess,
So Port
catch on
Colborne
to.
got 2 days, 2 8-hour shifts in April
Of ATV.
of ATV
Yes.
coverage.
Correct.
And so do we get 2 full 8-hour days each month of nice weather, or is that our usual allotment? And I'd like to know what the other areas, like what do other municipalities get? Do they get 2 days allotment, or if you're bigger, you get more, or you're smaller, you get less, or does anybody know?
Well, certainly we could follow up and
Yeah,
ask him.
let's do that.
All right, we'll
Yeah,
do that.
just to see
I'll
if it's
just
kind
give
of
him
equitable.
I'll just give him a call, and then I can update you further along if that's what
Thank
council
you
would
so
like.
much.
Councillor May?
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I'm just going to put my 2 cents in. These guys are paid by the hour anyway. If they do this, they do that, or they do, you know, my way of thinking, they're paid by the hour or by the job. What difference does it make if they're on an ATV or in a cruiser? And secondly, one of the officers that is on that patrol told me that they very seldom ever catch anybody. So my response to him was, your machines are way too clean. These kids can see the shiny badge and the shiny stuff that these guys wear and that clean ATV. They know that ATV is ridden by a policeman way even before he gets off the trailer and on it and on the road. So is there such a thing as these ATV fellows going undercover? I don't know. just my point. I just don't get it. I mean, we're paying them. Pick a job.
Thank you, Councillor. That's something else I can certainly ask him about at the next time I'm talking to him, which will be this week, I guess. I'll try to do that tomorrow. I'm in the office later in the afternoon, so I'll do that then. Thank you. Next is our regional council report, and unfortunately he couldn't be here this evening. So now we move on to councillors' items. Any items from councillors to my left? No items to my right. Look at those hands go up. Okay, Councillor Butters, and then Desmarais, and then May. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have 2, and they both deal with Pleasant Beach, interestingly enough. So I'm going to do the simple one first. A couple of weeks ago, we had a couple of folks here that addressed us, did a little oral presentation, and they just asked me to clarify their position and kind of on those remarks they would like them added to. And so I would just like tonight's minutes to reflect that Mr. Barta and Ms. McDougall do not condone the presence of the porta potty at Pleasant Beach road allowance. So if that could happen, I would be most grateful. And my second one is, I guess on Monday, like yesterday, the holiday, there's some problem or confusion down at the I'll call it the garbage depot at Pleasant Beach road allowance. And I got this email, which I was quite surprised at, from one of the residents, that a person in a green vest who identified themselves as a city person apparently it was telling them they couldn't put their garbage there, and if they did, they'd get a $500 fine. So then I said, well, then where are you supposed to put your garbage? And there was no answer to that. So I would just like some clarification on what happened there. I have there's some people here in the audience who've come tonight who would also like to address council if we could have leave for that and explain, because they were there, I wasn't. At least I'm hoping whoever's here tonight was there, because I wasn't. And maybe we could get some clarity on the garbage issue down there and what was going on, because I'm real confused. Thank you, Ms.
I was as well, Councillor. Thank you. So I'm going to ask our CAO to address what, or Mr. Aquilina. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I would ask if Donnie could put back the presentation on the public meeting for the Netherby Road rezoning. While he does that, I'll let council aware of what occurred. We had our new bylaw officer out there monitoring. She worked on the holiday, on the weekend, and what she observed were people were dumping their garbage in that location. Unfortunately, at that time, the garbage still hadn't been picked up yet. And our bylaw enforcement officer, Mrs. Hanson, supervisor, if you could scroll down to the bottom there, Donnie. Okay, leave right there. Just backing up, our supervisor, bylaw enforcement, met with the region to talk about the problems down there on Pleasant Beach Road. And there are a lot of problems. There are people that are dumping their garbage. There are no containers for them. They just dump them on the side of the road. That's been the historic situation down there, even though the Pleasant Beach Association refuses to put a container to have the garbage in there. People just put the garbage on the road, and now they're putting the garbage in a location that we are only permitting angled parking. What we're going to do, and the region has okayed this location, but you'll see it's south of Fire Lane 25, and that's where we like the garbage to be dropped off. Right now, on the other side, on the west side of the road, the region has put recycling totes. They were full, and not with recycling products, garbage. So what we like to do, if Donnie could turn to the next slide there as well, will give you a better understanding of where we'd like the garbage to be. You can see there, Fire Lane 25 again, on the east side of the road. That will be the new location we would like to have the garbage dumped there, or placed there, I should say. The region is going to be sending a letter out to all of the residents, 75 residents in the neighborhood, informing them that this will be the new location to put garbage, not to put your garbage in recycling bins, etc. And that's going to be sent out June 11th. We want to get them to do it ASAP, and they're going to be doing that, but it's got to be till June 11th. City Works Department will be grading the location there so garbage can be put there properly, because right now there's dunes, so it's got to be regraded to accommodate the garbage in that location. So a lot of it's a learning curve, and the fact that there's going to be some changes out there, and with this new location for the garbage, that hopefully that satisfies the residents out there. And it's going to be in a location that it's not going to conflict with the angled parking that we want to have out there.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. So the officer was out there to enforce parking, but got involved with the garbage? Is that what happened?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, she saw individuals dumping garbage at that location.
At the angle parking location?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Butters.
Well, I think really we need to hear from a resident who's there, because there's a lot of confusion about what happened yesterday. So I would ask for this council to hear the people who actually live there, of what their experience was.
Okay, so we'll need leave of council to do that. So you're moving?
Yes.
Councillor Demmer, you're seconding. All in favor of letting them speak? And who would like to come and speak, please? And thank you. just hit the button there, please, and state your, your name and your address, please. Thank you.
My name is Thomas I. Miller, and I'm at 5399 Fire Lane 21. My family's been there since the early 50s. And it seems to me that we always had a problem with the garbage. It seems like we're the lost group of people down at Pleasant Beach. We really are all by ourselves. We don't get anything that everybody else has. We don't get it. The only thing we pay taxes for and we get is garbage pickup. Now, they won't go down the roads because they said they can't bring the garbage trucks down the roads because we got our water lines down the roads. But we always ask them, why don't you give us a smaller truck? You know, like the ones that pick up at the end of the road, Pleasant Beach Road. But they seem to just, hear us, but don't really hear us. The garbage that happened the other day, there was a girl there, and she was sitting there for parking, but some people came up with their garbage bag. They always put on the garbage day in that spot, right by the fence, right by the lodge area, and she says, if you put that there, I'm gonna fine you, give you a ticket and fine you $400. Well, the resident was so upset, took the garbage back home and then told everybody else, said, don't take your garbage down there, you're gonna get a $400 fine. Now, we've been having this problem with the garbage, and every day I work with a garbage man. Every week I'm there, I got my rake, I got my gloves. When they're all done, you can even ask them, I rake up the sand, I got my shovel, I throw it in there. Granted, people come from all over to dump their garbage there because they know that there's a dump spot there. So they come from, I followed people from Welland years ago. This has been going on forever. It's not just the residents that are there. The residents put out their garbage. Granted, sometimes they put it out on Sunday night and it isn't until Monday and the animals get in it. That's because they're not around, but everybody does it. We need some kind of relief on this garbage, a bin, but they want to put the bin in the lodge area, which is association property, then they won't give us any money for it. I mean, they want us to do this on our own. And everybody from all around the place is dumping garbage, all from all the surrounding area, not just the cottage room people. And the recycling bins are there now. Now you moved it to the other side of the road because you doubled up the parking. We got a small area. The 28th of March, you passed it, you doubled up the parking on us. So now we got parallel parking on both sides of the roads. Before the cars couldn't turn around, people are all over the place on a good holiday weekend. There's hundreds of people. There's hundreds of cars coming up, dropping off the people. And on a Sunday or a Monday, like it's a holiday, the garbage is there. So now you got another thing, the garbage truck can't get in. There's all cars there. We gotta have some kind of relief for the garbage, the parking, which is now worse than it ever was. And we gotta get relief for people come from outside the area. You know, it's a community, it's been there for a long time. We've been there since the early 50s. I think that everybody's got their own ideas of where they want to put the garbage. Now you want to put the garbage in the front, in the new area, what I just seen on the film. Well, that'll really, that's not going to make it. The pile of garbage right in that spot, that's right in the middle where people are coming up now on the weekends. It's not going to make it. And now I heard that you guys aren't going to put, they aren't going to okay to put garbage at the end of the road for the beach people. We used to have 2 or 3 garbage cans down there during the season, but now they're not even putting them down there. They don't want to put garbage cans down there. For the people on the beach, where do they throw their garbage? Now the lady comes back from the beach and she says, did you see the beach? There's garbage all over the place because there's not even any garbage cans at the end of the road. Just before the beach, where the people at least come up and fill up the garbage cans when they could, but now there's not even that. I don't know who's making the plans. I don't know who's doing it, but you should see if it wasn't for the cottage owners around us, like Mr. Tiedemann over here and Mike Williams, who's just put a place on the corner, he cleans it up, I clean it up. Everybody who's there on that Monday, they'll try to clean it up on our own. I've been doing this for 30 years. We need some relief, you know, and we got to have a meeting with all the residents to come in. I know you made that thing the 28th, you okayed the parking and all that, and I just think that we were waiting to go to a meeting and say, hey, this is getting bad here. And then on the street, there could be about 100 people on a really summer day walking the street, parked on their cars all the way up to Michigan Road, little kids with their, if you had emergency down there and you got a fire truck coming down there, well, how are they gonna get in? I know that the fire chief said the last couple of meetings ago said, oh, we'll get in, we might have some damage to our trucks. You can't do that with little kids. They'll be in between the cars. If they hit a car, there's gonna be a death. This is, if you came down there and seen it, you would go, wow, I understand now, you know? Hey, it's, you gotta have a meeting with the people and, you know, about this issue of all the stuff down there. We don't get nothing. Everybody pays taxes. We get garbage pickup once a week at the end of the road. Everybody puts it in because the garbage trucks don't come down the roads. So they gotta put it somewhere. So you put it in there, try to make it the easiest spot for the garbage men to come and get it. But now with all the parking, more parking, and then they moved the parking from one side of the road to the other. I don't know what that was all about. I don't know why they did that. So all up Michigan Road, all up Pleasant Beach Road to almost Mitchell, people can park on the other side of the road. Now, I don't get it. It's not hard to see a congested area when you say, hey, don't come out on this day. It's really busy. People are going to work and all that. This is on a holiday weekend. Cars parked all over, people trying to turn around. I mean, somebody's gonna get hurt real bad, I'll tell you that. And the garbage, hey, if it wasn't for the people picking it up and grabbing it, if you guys would pay for a bin, maybe it would be right. You know, I mean, our tax dollars, there's 70 cottages, and we get garbage pickup. You add it up. Everybody's paying taxes, 70 cottages, we're all paying a couple grand at least. You got $150,000, $200,000, and we get garbage pickup one day a week. And then we're told to clean plow our driveways, or our roads, the fire lanes. Well, now I'm finding out who owns the fire lanes. I've been hearing all these things that the city owns the fire lanes. They own like, out of the 28 fire lanes, they own like 25 of them. I don't know if that's true or not. Is that?
No, sir, that's not true, but you have to wind up because you're almost
Okay,
after
hey,
10 minutes, but
hey,
thank you for your
it just-
presentation.
just that,
we're going to ask a few questions, but I believe Councillor Main has a question of you, and so does Councillor Butters. Just stay at the podium, sir, so the mics pick up. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to the presenter. I'm agreeing with this. Like you say, the reason a garbage truck cannot come down your fire lane is because the water lines go under the road?
Well, yeah, just like the water lines are off the road, but when you come down with the garbage trucks, they don't want to come down with the big trucks. There's no place really to turn around with a garbage truck or anything like that. But we heard through the grapevine that other municipalities have little trucks. The little trucks that you city own, they go down and pick up the garbage at the end of Pleasant Beach. They used to do that when there were garbage cans there. But they could bring a little truck down there, out down the roads. There's only a couple fire lanes, you know. I mean, now with the big trucks, they might cause some damage, you know. You don't know, you know.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Butters, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. See, to my mind, I was down there not on this past holiday Monday, but on a different Monday. So I happened to be there just at the time that the garbage truck was coming down to get the garbage that's kind of along the fence in front of the lodge there,
Yeah.
which is where everybody's taking their garbage like forever and a day. And so I was there, and the region had not just a big truck, but they also had a smaller pickup kind of truck. So I'm thinking, well, that's kind of interesting. So if the big garbage truck can't go down the fire lanes, there isn't, in my mind anyway, I mean, there's got to be residents that own pickup trucks that live on the fire lanes, various sizes of vans and whatever. If they could send a garbage truck in a decent sized pickup truck to get the garbage to bring it out to the big trucks, if that's not a good idea to take them down the fire lanes because of water lines, I get that. We don't have garbage at the end of Pleasant Beach Road. You know that's the only place that there's a garbage depot. There's not one at Wildwood. There's not one at Weaver Road, and there's fire lanes that come off of Wildwood. There's fire lanes that come off of Weaver. There's fire lanes all along there, and that is the only place where there's a garbage depot, and I think it's bloody ridiculous. And for them to me, it's a case of like, of it not being, it's like a lack of equity. You know, they pay their taxes just the same as everybody else in this town, and all on the fire lanes. And I think that to solve the problem, there should not be a garbage depot at the end of Pleasant Beach Road. What there should be is for a small truck to go and collect the garbage and bring it up to the big trucks. And if people, maybe it would be good to have the recycling bins in a good spot where people could still bring up the recycling if that's problematic for a pickup truck. But to me, that's the answer, is don't have that garbage dump down either where you're suggesting it. And I can remember specifically asking 2 weeks ago, you know, is this going to be kind of on the list of things to do for the people that live out there to have some input on? And you know, the last thing I wanted was this kind of craziness to happen, and I said, I want that assurance that, you know, they're going to have some input on this. And then I get that email on Monday. It's like, what the heck is going on here? So their frustration, I think, is totally valid. And I think that, you know, if the answer is a small truck to come and go get the garbage and bring it to the big truck, then why not have that happen? Thank you.
Let's ask Mr. Hanson. Mr. Hanson, because that's a region that does our waste manager. Would that be considered an enhancement of request for the city of Port Colborne? And then my second question to Mr. Hanson is, why are there not, if Pleasant Beach is the only area that has this area to dump garbage, why is, like, who picks up the garbage every place else on the other fire lanes that they don't have to do that?
Deputy Mayor, as of the last meeting when Councillor Butters raised the issue, I contacted Waste Management at the region and asked them to provide us with the information that was requested, and those would be the waste collection routes all through Ward 4 in the fire lane areas, in the lakefront areas, and also the settle points, just to confirm that, so we can work on that particular issue and talk about how these areas could be improved on any of the pickup areas. This issue came up many years ago at council, the same issue. And at that time, we were informed that it would be anything over and above what's being done today would be considered an enhanced service. And certainly we could get a price, and that's the intent here in getting the truck routes, to get a price for any enhanced services that might be required. I know the supervisor with the large packers that go out, there is a supervisor that goes around with them and deals with complaints, this sort of thing. This may be the pickup truck that was noticed with the packer itself. I know when the city run the service back in the early 90s, we had a contract and we had very similar situation. And historically, that's how these areas emerged on how the pickup was done. And I can remember specifically the fire lanes on Weaver Road as an example. There's a small concrete bridge across the Beaver Dams drain. And what the contractor did in those days, and it was in our contract, he would send a pickup truck across the concrete bridge to fire lane 1, pick up all the garbage that was on that side, bring it back, and then transfer it to the packer, because they weren't able to access that into fire lane 1. So there's some history to this on why it's done certain ways. So Niagara Waste Management, our Niagara Region's Waste Management Group, are going to provide this information to the city, and we'll have those discussions to see if there's any way we can improve this situation and the set out for it.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. I think that would probably be what we'd like to see, but I still don't understand, as Councillor Butters made the point that that does not occur at any other place, not at Weaver, you know, none of those. So what do they do? Do they just send this little truck through? Do they send the smaller truck through and bring it out to the main road?
Again, we haven't run this particular service since the early 90s. I'm not certain of the operation with Mterra, their contractor, and how this is done, the recycling, how that's done. So I want to get confirmation from Niagara Region. I've made that request just following the previous council meeting, and we'll sit down with the Niagara Region and work out the details on it. There certainly are, as we discussed 2 weeks ago, there are some fire lanes where we do not want heavy trucks on them because of the obvious problems with running those trucks. So we'll have to work out those details, get the routing and get the set out area and determine what can be done to enhance that service.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. And then I guess to you, Mr. Aquilino, because I remember that coming up at the last meeting. Why are the receptacles not on the beach area now, the garbage? That's a big thing because a lot of people walk in and use that beach or park, like the fellow was saying. They park and they walk that way. They don't care about the walk because they enjoy the beach. But there's nothing there for garbage receptacles. And why were they removed, or is there a reason they were removed?
Deputy Mayor, I'm going to defer to Mr. Hanson.
Okay, sorry. All right, thank you.
Deputy Mayor, typically we put out 1 or 2 cans in that area. What our operations staff are telling us, we could put out 10 cans, we could put 20 cans out. They're all full of household waste daily. They're always full. The number that we put out there really doesn't make a difference. We have to do daily pickups to pick up the household waste that are in these cans. We like to put them out there for the convenience of the beach users to keep the beach clean. That would be ideal. But the receptacles that we put out there, we're not licensed haulers to haul waste, but the receptacles we put out there are full of household waste. And we have to take those to the well and landfill site on a daily basis when we collect that. Okay. So there has to be a better solution than those receptacles.
And you'll bring that forward in your report, will you?
Yes.
Will you address that as well? And so
Absolutely.
Just for now, I know Councilor Butters has a question, but for now I want to know, what are these residents going to do until June the 10th? I think June the 10th was the magic day. Thank you.
Through Deputy Mayor to yourself, that what we will do is that we have no other option to place the garbage in the same spot until the neighbors are aware of where to dump new. So it's going to be the status quo until there is the proper facilities and signage in place that people know where to actually dump. And if I could, the meeting that we're going to have with the residents is going to occur on June the 22nd. Notice will be sent out by the end of the month, advising of the parking, the tollway zones, the whole bit. It's going to be scheduled in the council chambers on June 22nd, 6:30 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Councilor Butters, I think you had a question.
Yes, I just wondered if there was anybody else in the gallery that wanted to speak, because I wondered if you were going to come up here, because you're kind of shaking your head at certain comments. So I think it's important that your voice be heard. If you have something to say, then we need to hear.
Something different to say?
Well,
do you have something different to say than what we've heard? Okay, all righty.
I'm Gail
Thank you.
Tiedemann. I'm from Fire Lane 243. I don't know where at. We're not garbage patrol, but honestly, I would say all of us put our garbage in big black garbage bags, and we put it in front of the containers that everyone's talking about. So how there's all this waste and garbage in the ones at the beach, I totally disagree with that. Those are the people truly coming from the beach, and they have their little bags from Walmart and things like that. They use those. It's not from any of us. And that's all I wanted to say. I don't believe that for a minute. And it just makes me mad because it's being put on us like we're doing something wrong, which is not the case. And that's all I had to say.
Thanks.
Because it just really bothers me.
All right.
Okay.
Councilor Bodnar and then Mr. Hanson.
Can I just address that, ma'am? Can I just address that?
Yes.
Because I frequent that restaurant once in a while.
Oh, yeah, by
And
the
I
water.
watch people come out of their cottage with their garbage bags,
Mm-hmm.
walk all the way down to the end to throw it in those cans.
Never, well.
Oh, I'm telling you, I was
just saying,
sitting
I've
there in the
never-
restaurant.
Right,
It may
I've
not be
only
you.
been there since '97, and it's just funny, and maybe you have, and I don't deny that, but I know
Absolutely, I
all
have.
my neighbors, if they leave
Yeah.
early, they say to another neighbor, take my garbage up for
Yep.
me tomorrow.
Yep.
I don't know, honestly.
And that was when I was sitting there. I just watched them come out with a green garbage bag and throw it in the can that was already partially full. But,
The ones in the sand?
that were at the end of the road for the beach.
Because where they used to put the beach ones is near that big square caution sign. Those are the beach ones. Those cans there.
It was on the left-hand side if you're looking at the
That's
at the
where we
beach.
put our garbage.
Don't you put it on the fence on the right-hand side when you
No,
walk up?
last year it was always on the left. And that's even where the disposable, those big plastic things were. They were always on the left because there was no parking. All of a sudden this year, even though now that's become a parking area and now they've moved it across. But you weren't seeing them walking to the two like containers in the sand. They were putting it where we have to put it.
Whatever that was, those drums that are
Yeah.
in the city of Port Colborne.
Yeah. I don't know.
Is there a solution that everybody puts the garbage in proper garbage cans at the end of each fire lane?
Would that be a solution if I don't know.
I'm just saying, like most
Yeah.
of us do, we have garbage cans that the
Maybe.
animals can't get in.
Maybe, and then put our little
And-
numbers on them so everybody knows whose garbage can belongs to who.
It's, I'm just saying, it's like most people do.
Yeah.
Put your own garbage out, take care of your own garbage can, and then it wouldn't be all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, the raccoons can figure out all kinds of things, but, you get the
Yeah.
proper garbage can, and it's just at the end of the fire lane.
Yeah.
And then the
But then
garbage
who brings
guys,
them, you see, that's the thing though. Now, most people take their garbage and they go back to Buffalo. Who's gonna bring, I mean, I know
Well,
it's like, it's your problem.
that's-
How does your garbage can get back if you don't?
sure. I live on a fire lane.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of my neighbors go back. One of the other neighbors bring their garbage can back in for them.
Well,
So I'm just saying,
Yeah.
is that a solution or is that not a solution? It maybe is
I don't
less
think.
complicated as
Yeah.
that,
Because a lot of people go home on Sundays, which would mean the garbage can would be there possibly for a whole week unless one of their kind neighbors brought it back for them.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's an easy solution,
Yeah.
but it is,
Yeah.
maybe a solution.
All I know is we've been doing it since '97. Big black, the heavier garbage bags, putting them all together in one pile.
Yep.
That's how it's always been. In fact, we take our garbage home if we leave early, so it doesn't sit there overnight. Not that everybody does, but that's what we do.
That's true. And when I went down there this morning, there was garbage bags dropped in that spot by the fence.
Now, that could be somebody from
Yeah.
that's the problem, because there's not a lot of us up there. We went up today, and there's only like 3 or 4 cottages with people.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's gone back home, so that could be somebody. I'm not saying it's from the
no.
campground, but
Yep.
you don't
Yep,
know where
could
it's
be.
coming from. But it ends up there. So, I don't know if it's everybody complains about it, so it would be a shame if it's our neighbors doing it. Sitting there complaining as we're having a drink and then going and just throwing their garbage. That would be sad, because everybody complains. So, okay.
I think Councilor Butters has one more question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not for you, though.
Oh,
Okay, thank you.
okay.
We're good. I do have one more.
Thank you, Councilor Butters. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I just kind of take issue with the term enhanced service, because to me, this is a service that should be being provided in a better manner than what's been happening. And so when you talk about enhance, that means, to me, that always says, I'm getting something better than anybody else has got. These people got nothing. They need something like everybody else has. And to me, that's not enhanced. It's just like, that would be fair. That's.
Deputy Mayor, it's enhanced means it's in addition to what we already pay for. We pay for collection through the tax base, through the region, number of units. So anything over and above that, and that's why we talked about the new contract when it comes up in 2018, so that we could have that included in the new tender so that it's not an enhanced service. It would be an addition to, like a new development within the municipality, so it would be part of the new contract. If they have a 7-year contract now and somebody come in and said, I want 100 more homes added to the contract, well, who would pay for that? We would have to pay for it as an additional service to what they already collect.
Are you listening or? No, he's talking now.
They're being paid to pick up the garbage at the end of the road. They're being paid for that right now.
Correct.
So is the amount going to be some huge big amount for them to go down a few fire lanes off that road? Is that going to be some onerous amount way over and above what they're already being paid for, which is a system that's not working, is my point. I guess we'll find that out.
We'll find that out when the report comes back to us, and that's what we'll wait for. Is that, are you satisfied with that, Councilman?
I have to be satisfied.
Thank you.
To the point with that. But I'm not happy.
Well, as long as in the end we get service, that's right. Thank you. Now, were there any other councillors' items? Councillor Demeray and Councillor Main. Yes, thank you. Councillor Demeray.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I'm not sure exactly who this would go to. I would think it's probably Ron Hansen. I've had someone approach me with the concerns about the hospital signs on Steele Street. This person is telling me that it's misleading to people visiting the city, that if they see those signs and follow them expecting emergency care, they're not going to get it. So having a hospital sign is not the right thing to do. Possibly exchange those signs with urgent care signs, but certainly take down the hospital signs.
Thank you, Councillor Demeray. I believe our CAA wants to answer that. Thank you.
Through the acting mayor to Councillor Demeray, and certainly if Mr. Hansen does have something to add, but I did have a voicemail about this last week. I thought I sent an email, but I'm not finding it in my sent items, so I think it's half finished on my computer, I'm sure. But I did some investigating, and it might be the same as what engineering has to say. I did some investigating, and it turns out that there is, as far as I can tell, one wayfinding sign, one sign on the side of the road, and it's actually right across from the hospital at Steele, just south of Ash. Like, it's literally right before the stop sign. There's three? I saw one with my own 2 eyes, and so I guess there's 2 others. I didn't go that far out. I'm sorry. What the rest of my research identified was that it was at our request that the big white H on a blue background stayed on the hospital building, and it was at our request, the city's request, that those 3 signs stayed up in order to direct people there in the case of an emergency, because even though it's not a hospital in the true sense of the word, the urgent care center can provide, can stabilize patients for transfer. So it was decided by this council before, well, sorry, I don't know if it actually went through council. It might have been by an individual council member to leave those signs there. Now, Joanne Ferriccioli, our health services coordinator, Mayor Maloney, and Suzanne Johnson from the NHS have had a meeting recently when Mayor Maloney was still, before he was sick. At the time, it was decided that they were willing to leave those if we wanted to. I don't know for sure, but I tend to think that the opposite is also true. If we were to ask them to remove those white signs, or if we were to choose to remove our white H on a blue background street signs, maybe even the sign on the building, that they'd be amenable to that.
Thank you. Council, you have another?
Thank you very much for that information. I would just, I happen to agree with the person who had complained to me that it is misleading. I definitely agree that we should have something pointing people to the urgent care center. So switching them out for urgent care signs would, to me, be the right thing to do. As far as the H on the hospital, I think that's an NHS decision. But I would certainly say that if they're not going to make it into a hospital, then take the H off. But that will be their decision. I have some more item. Another
I
item?
just wanted to kind of respond to that. As long as there's patients in that hospital, it's a hospital. It's a chronic hospital, palliative care. So that H, in my opinion, is not misleading at all. If you want to add underneath that urgent care, that's fine, but it's not misleading as long as we have patients in that hospital who are getting care from qualified nurses and doctors. Thank you.
Okay, and that's fine. I just, like I say, I would agree, though it is misleading if you're expecting emergency care. So putting urgent care to me makes the best sense. But the other issues that I have today have to do with the trail, both the Welland Canal Trail and the Friendship Trail. I've had 3 visits to my home by people who use the trail on a regular basis. And I do have some, I'm looking for some pictures I have that were sent to me. The trail, the Welland Canal Trail, someone has done a little bit of grooming to the trail, and it wasn't the city. Apparently it was someone who lives up around there, works up around there, and has taken upon themselves to do a bit of grooming. But now there's a lot of stones across the trail, and people who are riding, with the really nice bikes are complaining that these stones are getting in the way. So there's that. On the Friendship Trail, the shopping carts have been removed from the trail, and some local people have groomed some of it, but they said there's a lot of debris and that sort of thing. So what I'm asking is, what are the dates for maintenance on those 2 trails so that I can put that information out and make people happy?
Deputy Mayor, the stones on the trail are a common problem that happen all year long. It's due to the ATVs and motorcycles, the other vehicles that go along the sides of the trails that kick the stone up on them. We don't do trail maintenance during the winter months, but this time of year, once we have our extra students and our extra people on staff, trail maintenance is a regular item for us. We do have people patrolling. We are picking up debris on a regular basis, so that program is underway at the present time.
Councillor Demery? Thank you. Councillor May.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just have a few items here. This is just for knowledge. I had the great honor of going to the Municipal Summit for the OMB reform process and powers. There was roughly 145 elected officials there representing 60% of the population of Ontario. The provincial government is coming down with some changes in the OMB, and these municipalities want to make sure that the changes that go to the OMB are heard by the municipalities. They had some pretty good guest speakers who were former chairs of the OMB, who had lots of input on how to change and make it better. And the big thing that everyone agreed on was all these municipalities, ours included, have a very good planning staff, and they're handcuffed by the OMB on a lot of decisions that are made because of the threat of the OMB. But they want to change how you appeal, that anything that's set up by planning and it conforms to your approved strategic plan will not be appealable. Now, I don't know how far they're going to get through that with the government, but these people seem to be adamant that that's what they want. We'll see. Any comments?
I think, Deputy Mayor, I could talk ad nauseum, but the last changes to the OMB reform had to have regard to the local council decision when they were deliberating an appeal. So they had to take the consideration that council placed when it considered an application. So that was to hold more weight than in the past. So I am not sure if the OMB across the province is actually doing that or not, but that's supposed to be done.
Just a quick answer for through Deputy Mayor to Dan. The biggest bone of contention here is why it's not getting done is the people they appoint to the OMB aren't planners. They're not they're just, and a lot of these people said that they voted right. They were appointed because of their expertise in other fields. And what they want to have is more planners on the OMB, people who are trained, people who can understand what they're talking about, and less lawyers. So they all agreed to that. So I won't hold that against the lawyers, but, thank you. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, that was number one.
Okay. Thank you,
Now,
Councillor.
we're talking about lighthouses and we're talking about tourism. I had the privilege of receiving this book, and I'll pass it around so everyone can look at it. It's called Vintage Fire Truck and Equipment, and it comes out of, let me see here, Yellow Springs, Ohio. It goes all over North America, and these people are adamant about fire trucks. These people travel anywhere to look at a fire truck. And the part that struck me the most was our own fire truck is in this magazine. They're the 2 pages or 3 pages that talk about the history of the Fort Mac and honor people like Don Bear, who basically is the keeper of the Mac right now. And I thought that was pretty good. People all over North America are going to see that. So I'll pass it around and let you look at that. And that's on a brighter note. People like we have right in our own community. Perpoti. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. Now, the other one is the shoulder season. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, through you too, Harry. I got a ton of calls this weekend. And some of them were from restaurant owners on West Street that the washrooms weren't open. And Mr. Louis was kind enough to address that today in an email. But my point is, the docks weren't in, the washroom wasn't opened, and it was a beautiful weekend. And people expect these things to be done when the weather's good. So my question is, would it be possible that we alter that shoulder season that reflects the weather? Like this winter, we had a super winter. We didn't have very little ice on the lake, so we had a very early spring, but we seem to be sticking to the same shoulder seasons and dates that we have in previous years where it was needed to start late. Is there any desire to change that at all?
Through your worship, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Maine, I think more or less on the information that Mr. Louis provided, I think there should be some motivation to move that if we can, and taking into consideration some of the aspects of getting the docks, particularly to West Side for the May 2-4 weekend. I think that's something that we should be striving to work towards, particularly if we run into a situation where the weather is advantageous, that we can accelerate the schedule. We should take that into consideration, barring any unforeseen, because we do rely on Pocomar and a few others to help us with the movement of those docks. So I think in a simple answer to your question is yes, we should be taking that into consideration to accelerate the placement of those docks for the May 2-4 weekend. The washroom matter, with all due respect, is really under the parks operations side of the house, and I know that they had some problems with some electronics that were addressed, so I'm not sure what, I'd have to defer to Mr. Hanson for further clarification on that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Now, I wish our fire chief, he's not here, so I'll just talk to you about it, Deputy Mayor. I got some calls about fires in the backyard again, and I would just hope that our Chief Cartwright has enough money in his budget to at least put something in the paper in the spring, maybe in midsummer, reflecting the bylaw, and so people get on the right track with it. I know there's still lots of interpretations about the bylaw, and I would like just to make note of that, if he could possibly do that through his safety, what he does when he puts his advertising in for Safety Day and stuff like that, and kind of get people up to speed on that bylaw. And My other issue is I would like to pull number 12 as well if I'm not too late. Is that okay?
Does council object when our next thing on the item is consideration of items requiring separate discussion? Does council mind if we pull number 12? No objections, then fine, thank you. Thank you. So we're going to do that, just to make a comment, when it comes to that, yeah. Thank you. That was my fault. Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just for council's information, the decision on item 12 has already been made, although there's an opportunity to pull that item again in council, if that's council's desire. However, at this point in time, council doesn't have any objection, then statements about that report would be acceptable, but the decision's been made in committee.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And so now we are moving on to, there's no staff response to any items previously brought forward? Nothing? Okay, thank you. And so now we are moving on to the items that we have pulled, which was 1, 3, 5, and now I've asked for 12. So item 1, Councillor Main, if you could.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Planning and Development Report number 2016-79. Subject, Westwood Estates Phase 2, Execution of Subdivision Agreement, File D12-02-06.
Mover, Councillor Main, seconder, Councillor Desmarais. Questions and comments? I just had a comment. Sorry, that's why I asked Councillor Main if you. I'm just happy that this subdivision that we've it's been in the works for quite a long time, and Mr. Aquilina, I'm very happy to see that this is finally coming forward and has been approved, and that we're going to have more homes in Port Colborne because the subdivision is going forward. So it's a good news. It's good news. So I just wanted to pull it for that reason, just to let everyone know that that subdivision is full phase ahead and very good for Port Colborne. And that's all. Any other comments on that? Thank you. All in favor of this? Any opposed? That would be carried. Thank you. Councillor Main, I believe you pulled item 3.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Engineering and Operations Department, Engineering Division, report number 2016-86. Subject, Homes for Humanity Site, 320 Bell Street, water service replacement, cost request.
Movers, Councillor Main, seconder, Councillor Bodnar. Councillor Main.
Yes, I don't disagree with it and to this point. I think it's time we should have a look at how we supply water and what direction we're going to go in the future. I know other agencies service to the meter in hydro and gas, but water just stops at the curb stop. I know it's not cost effective because we've got 6,000 or 7,000 homes in Port Colborne that are already run that way, but I just wanted to bring that point up that if in the future we get lots of money for infrastructure and have no place to put it, maybe it's time we acquired that piece of that service to the meter. Thank you.
No place to put it.
Thank you, Councillor Main. Mr. Hanson, I'd like you to comment on that, just to let council, make council aware of how much the city has given to this home to date.
Deputy Mayor,
I know it's in the report, but I'd like it to be read out.
just to outline what's in the report, we did a little bit of research in preparing this report, and at the previous meeting of council in January, council had waived the total building permit fees, which were estimated $470.72. So that was waived. In June 2015, Habitat had requested an assistance, an application for a grant to Port Colborne Hydro Inc. in the amount of $10,000 to assist their project on Bell Street. We had confirmation they were granted $4,628 in June 2015, with no specific attachments to those funds for the project. So that's a summary of what was waived to date and cost assistance provided by the city on the project.
It's over $5,000 today.
Over $5,000, yes.
Thank you. Okay, so any more comments on this? So this is to advise Habitat for Humanity that the request for more funding has not been approved. All in favor? Any opposed? 2. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, so that carries. Thank you. Not approved. Thank you. For any extra funding. Thank you. The next item is item number 5. I believe that was Councillor Bodnar, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Department of Community and Corporate Services, Community Service Division Report Number 2016-87, subject 24th Annual 444 International Walleye Tournament, June 24th to the 26th, 2016.
Moved by Councillor Bodnar, seconded by Councillor Danch. Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I just really wanted to bring this up to highlight a great event in the city, and also just to highlight the partnership between the city and the Conservation Club. It's just one of those events, and not the only event that the city partners with and helps in this case, the Port Colborne District Conservation Club, in putting on an event that they totally run. We are just doing assistance to them to make their job easier, and it's just a highlight that our staff helps out, does what they can, makes it better, and to really congratulate the Conservation Club on 24 years of doing this, which is no small feat which is not a large club. And I just really wanted people to know that it's a great event, and they should come out and see what's going on. You're going to see some boats there that are worth a couple of bucks. These are, in some cases, some professional fishermen that that do a circuit, and as well as some local guys that do very well and have won the tournament in past years. So just to highlight that June 24th to the 26th, 444 International Walleye Tournament, right here in Port Colborne. Come on out and have a look. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. All in favor? Any opposed? That would be carried. Thank you. Item 12.
It's a request from Jennifer Misanovich, Autism Doesn't End at 5, regarding a resolution from the town of Shelburne, autism spectrum disorder and intensive behavior intervention, and a resolution from the city of Pickering, unfair treatment of children with autism spectrum disorder and their families. Request for support.
Thank you, Councillor. I've been told by our clerk that we don't need a mover and a seconder because it's already been brought up. I just wanted to make a comment of how important I think that we are supporting this. As autism is, I look at it as it is unfair treatment. If that child had diabetes, or if they had some kind of there would be programs out there to continue helping them past a certain age. And I think it's I think it says they are deemed eligible until at the age of 2, but then after they turn 5, they're put on a wait list, which I thought was so unfair. So I just wondered, in this, it says we're supporting the endorsement, but is there anything else that we can do by sending this maybe to our MPP for support as well? And I was just wondering if that could be part of that resolution going forward. Can we do that? Thank you. Is everybody in favor of us doing that? Because I think it's very important that we don't ignore this. So all in favor? Okay, and not opposed. Great, thank you. Great. Any notices of motion? No notices of motion. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Danch and seconded by Councillor Day. All in favor? That'll be carried. Thank you. Now we are moving on to our council portion of tonight's meetings. So I'd like to call the council meeting to order. Are there any introduction of addendum items, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. None this evening.
Thank you. Confirmation of the agenda. Councillor Main, Councillor Butters, all in favor? Thank you. Any disclosures of interest? I need a mover and a seconder of the special meeting of council held on May 9th, and then also the regular meeting of council held on May the 9th. Mover, Councillor Desmarais, seconder, Councillor Bodner, all in favor? That would be carried. Thank you. Are there any items requiring separate discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Mover and a seconder first. Councillor Main, Councillor Desmarais, all in favor? Thank you. And then approval of items not requiring separate discussion. Councillor Bodner, Councillor Butters, all in favor? That would be carried. Thank you. There are no proclamations. There are none. We'll go now through the minutes of the boards, commissions, and committees. I'll do them in bulk. The meeting minutes of the Port Colborne Tourism Marketing Advisory Committee meeting of April the 4th. Minutes of the Accessibility Advisory meeting held on April the 13th. And they were in draft to us. And minutes of the Environmental Advisory Committee meeting of February the 17th. Mover, Councillor Butters, seconder, Councillor Desmarais, all in favor? And that would be carried. Consideration of bylaws.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, that the following bylaws be enacted and passed. Bylaw 63664616 being a bylaw to authorize entering into a subdivision agreement with Lester Schultz regarding Westwood Estates Phase 2. Bylaw 63674716 being a bylaw to appoint an acting building inspector to act when the office of the chief building official is vacant. And finally, bylaw 63684816 being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne at its special and regular meetings of May 24th, 2016.
Mover, Councillor Main, seconder, Councillor Butters, all in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you. Now, council will now go into closed session, so I need a motion to go into closed session. Councillor Danch, Councillor Butters. That council now proceed into closed session in order to address the following matters. Minutes of a closed session portion of May 9th special council meeting. Engineering and Operation Engineering Division report subject an update on fire lanes ownership regarding the potential disposition of the city-owned land pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. C, Planning and Development Economic Division report number 2016-88 regarding the potential disposition of city-owned land pursuant to the Municipal Act subsection 2392C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And D, memorandum from the Director of Planning and Development dated May 16th regarding an unsolicited offer for the city to acquire private property pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392C, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Disclosures of interest. to be done in closed session? Yep. Thank you. So we need a motion to rise? That's it. So an adjournment of this into closed session. Thanks.
Yeah.